Hey guys, welcome to this bonus video. This is a video that accompanies episode 8 of the Good Food CFO podcast, where I spoke with Alli Ball about how to succeed with a high-priced or premium product. And as part of our conversation, we talked about the decision that most good food businesses face at some point or another, where you need to decide, do I proceed with my high price product, or do I make some changes to the ingredients or to the packaging or to something else in terms of how my product is made and packaged and delivered in order to reduce my costs and thus reduce my price so that my target audience can afford it. If you found your way to this video without listening into that episode, or if you would like a little refresher on what exactly we were talking about that led to this bonus video, here is a reminder. I'm going to play a little clip for you now. You know, I talk to business owners all of the time about the right price for their products, right? And we do it from a financial standpoint. So what are the costs to produce your product? How much is your packaging? What's the profit margin that you need to achieve to have a profitable business, right? Not just a profitable product. And what happens so often, especially in the good food space, is that the right price is often a bit higher, or maybe a lot higher than what the business owner thinks that they can charge for their product, or believes that they can charge product. And, you know, we reach this point in the conversation where business owners have really two decisions, right? You can either modify how you make your product or how you package your product to reduce costs and, you know, sell it at a lower price, or you make the decision to move forward. And so the very first question I have for you is like, how do you make that decision? I believe, you know, your target audience and, you know, taking into consideration your brand and your brand identity, but I want to hear it straight from you. How do you determine what the right price point is for your product?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I guarantee that every business owner is going to struggle with it at some point, right? I bet, Sarah, like you're nodding along. I'm sure you see it with 100% of your clients. And I love, Sarah, that you said that business owner can make a decision one of two ways. They can either decide to reduce costs so they can reduce price, or they can move forward with the price that, you know, naturally fell into place and figure out how to sell that product. And let's touch on that first idea before we like really go down into this episode. But this idea that you might decide to reduce your costs and reduce the end price of your product. And typically, like you said, that is through reducing ingredient costs. Maybe you change up your packaging, maybe you change up your production methods. But usually, Sarah, I see brands have to compromise on their values when they do this, right? And I think that this is where it gets tricky. And this is where a brand has to have done the work up front about who am I as a brand? What are my values? What do I stand for? What am I going to always do in my business? And what am I going to never do in my business? And that will guide them forward as to which path they go down in the first place. I don't want to say cut corners, Sarah, because that implies that it's a negative thing, but do they change things about their business to reduce the price, or do they stick to the original plan and move forward with that higher price product?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally does. And a little bit of foreshadowing here. We've got a bonus video on YouTube that talks about how to consider or go about modifying the ingredients in your product or sourcing differently without compromising your values. So I'm so glad that you brought that up because yes, that's the major concern. If I do this, am I going to be true to my values? Am I going to be true to the values that I want my business to have? And am I delivering the end product that I want to be serving to people? So as you can see, we talked about the decision that people come to, and that this idea that reducing your cost has to or will inevitably reduce the product quality or the integrity of your product. And it's just not so. And I wanted to provide some additional help and guidance for those of you who feel like you do need to reduce your costs and want to do it in a way that allows you to build the business that you want to, right? That upholds the good food standards that you have for yourself, for your business, and for your customers. Now, if you're here and you've not yet listened to episode 7, where I talk about pricing your product for business profitability, I encourage you to hit pause, take just the 12 minutes, I think, that episode lasts for, and listen into that. And if you haven't yet done that work, I encourage you to first go about doing that and really determining the right price for your product. It's an excellent starting point so that you know, number one, if the price that you're considering right now is the right one. And if it's not, how much needs to change in terms of your costs in order to offer your product at the right price and still build a profitable business. Now, once you've done that work, if you still need to reduce your costs, then this is a great place for you to get started. And what we're going to talk about today are 3 ways that you can reduce your costs, again, without significantly or even the tiniest bit reducing the quality or the integrity of your product. And to highlight those 3 ways, and then we'll dig into them. The first one is modifying your product. And we're going to talk about 3 different ways that you can do this. Then we're going to talk about buying in bulk. Now, there are some trade-offs for buying in bulk that you may face, but there are also some benefits and some ways that you can go about it that a lot of young business owners in particular may not know about. So I'm super excited to share those with you. And then we're going to talk about changing your purchasing parameters or exploring your purchasing guidelines to see if there may be opportunities for you to stick to those guidelines, but modify maybe where or when or how you do your purchasing. So we're going to dig into that in more detail as well. So number 1, going back to modifying your product while maintaining your standards. How can you do this? Well, one of the things you can do is make ingredient swaps wherever possible. And I love telling this story. You may have heard it before, but I can't resist telling it again. When I was a young buyer, early on in my career, I worked for a catering company and we sold an amazing taco buffet. And this taco buffet was priced so incredibly that it turned out we were actually losing money every time we sold it. So we absolutely needed to change the price, but we discovered that leaving the product as it was and increasing the price to where it needed to be for us to actually make money when we sold it was going to price us out of the market. It was going to be too expensive for the menu. So we had to look at what were we offering, how were we creating this product, and what could we do to lower our costs without impacting the integrity of this item, because people loved it and they for sure would be upset if we raised the price and the quality was reduced. So what we found were some very unique things. One of the things we did was remove some of the extras that people may not have needed, like guacamole, right? Or like a fresh made salsa. The taco buffet already came with a pico de gallo that was not very expensive to make. It already came with lots of toppings, and it came with a delicious crema that when served on top, you didn't miss the guacamole at all. It also came with a side of house-made tortilla chips. Now, not everyone who ordered the taco buffet needed this chips and guacamole. So we could remove those additional items and make them available for an additional price if someone wanted them. But simply removing them from the main product boosted the profitability of that product, right? Without modifying the quality of the ingredients and the tacos that were being served. The other thing we did was notice that the single highest priced item per ounce in the entire buffet was the organic yogurt that we were making the crema with. It was actually, I think, an organic creme fraiche, not yogurt. And what we discovered was that we could source an organic local sour cream that was a significantly less expensive ingredient that produced an end product that tasted exactly the same as the crema. So we made that substitution, and we were clear about it. It was an organic sour cream, utilized in the crema. And like I said, no one could taste a change, and all of our sourcing standards were still intact when we made that swap. So in our specific case, we did have to increase the price a little bit, but what we were able to do by removing some of the ancillary items that came along with the buffet and making that really critical creme fraiche to sour cream swap helped us keep that product on our menu and helped people continue to buy it on a regular basis for their teams that they were trying to feed with this buffet. So that's one option for looking for ingredient swaps that can, allow you to produce an equally high quality product, but at a lower price. Another option for a product modification is changing the size of your product. Now, one of my program members makes a simmer sauce, and they're delicious. And she told a story recently about how, when she was about to enter the market, she realized that her product was significantly higher price than the others on the shelf. And she was concerned about that. She knew that she couldn't reduce the product price all that much. Otherwise, she wouldn't be profitable. But she also knew that selling at the price point she was at was going to potentially price her right out of shopping carts. But what she didn't realize is that she was making a 16-ounce product, and the other brands on the shelf were selling 12-ounce units. That's a 4-ounce difference. And just by changing from 16 ounces to 12 ounces to match the other products on the shelf, she was able to naturally reduce her costs and offer her product at a price that matched her competitors. So this is just one of those things where sometimes we don't think about, am I selling the same size unit as my competitors? Or thinking about, how will people use my product? Is this a 2-serving size container? And if I sold it in a single serve, can it be more approachable and more affordable for my target market? So it's an option you may not have considered before. We also might think about modifying the packaging. And this is a sensitive subject to talk about. And I am by no means an expert in sustainable packaging, but I have come across amazing brands who are sourcing and producing amazing quality products, from caterers to meal delivery to CPG brands. And they have equally high standards for packaging, but they add not only a lot of cost to the price of the product itself, but when we're shipping or delivering these products, if they're made with glass or other heavy, reusable packaging, it also can raise the price of shipping and delivery or freight. So these are other things to take into consideration. And there are so many sustainable packaging options. If packaging is something that's driving up the cost of your product significantly, do think about changing how your product is packaged, at least just for the start of your business. And as your margins improve and as your volumes grow and you can buy those more sustainable or reusable packaging products and get them at a better per unit price, they may make more sense then, right? So just kind of see what your options are if they are adding a lot of money, a lot of cost to your product, and just explore the options that you have. How you package your products today when you're launching your business or in the first few years of your business does not define how it must be packaged forever. And you can, do better and spend a little bit more when it makes sense for your business. I hate to see businesses not succeed because they're sort of, spending a little more than they can afford for the ultimate packaging for their product. Okay, Number 2 on the list of ways that you can reduce your prices reduce your prices by reducing your costs, but without hurting the integrity or the quality of your product, is to buy in bulk. Now, lots of business owners that I know purchase their products from their ingredients from Costco, from Restaurant Depot, from Amazon, and you all get pretty good prices. But another option that is typically better than these retail outlets that allow you to buy in bulk is to work with an ingredient wholesale distributor. So these are companies like Cisco. Cisco has a great company underneath it called FreshPoint that deals in local farmers and works with local vendors, right? There are regional companies all around the United States that offer raw ingredients at a low price in large quantities. Now, some of the things that you will encounter when you're looking into these businesses are things like minimum delivery amounts, right? So purchase amounts. So you might have to meet an individual or a monthly delivery minimum in order to have this product delivered to your door. Now, ways around that are to partner with others in your kitchen space, if you had a shared kitchen space, or find colleagues in your area. Maybe you're in an area where there are other people producing products similar to yours, or they're ready to start purchasing on a larger scale as well, and you can order your products together. Get them delivered to one of your locations, and then separate your orders and take them to your individual kitchens. It's an option. I love the idea of piggybacking on someone else's order whenever you can, until you're all up to the volume where you can have your purchases delivered directly to your door independently. Another option that a lot of folks don't know about is the will call option. Now, I know that during the craziness that has been COVID-19, will calls in some places have closed. But as we start to open up and as the vaccines roll out, this should become an option for businesses again. And what will call is essentially you have the ability to order ingredients and products from distributors. And if you don't meet the delivery minimum, you can actually go to their warehouse and pick up the product. And it's at no additional cost to you other than the time, to drive there. So obviously, this is best if your distributor is conveniently located to your kitchen or not too far of a drive. But you can, number 1, save money on the ingredients themselves. And number 2, almost do like a one-stop shop for a lot of the things that you need. These are not companies that if you Google, where to buy almond flour or where to buy tomato sauce at wholesale costs, they're not going to show up in your Google search. So you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper, talk to some restaurants in your area or some larger producers in your area, maybe even talk to some co-packers if they exist in your area, and find out where they are ordering their ingredients from. And then reach out to that customer service department or that sales team and just find out what are their prices and what options they have for small businesses like yours. This is a great topic to bring to the free profitable food business community. As a former buyer, I can provide some insights into how to communicate with wholesalers and distributors for your ingredient purchasing. We can talk about how to inform them of what your purchasing guidelines are. We can talk about how to compare costs and determine, what you want to order from whom. And I can help you through that process if you need it. So that's the profitable food business community on Mighty Networks. We have links to it in this bonus episode show notes for you. Okay, let me see if I've covered everything in that section. It looks like I have. The last one I want to talk about is changing your purchasing parameters or exploring sort of an expansion of your guidelines. Okay, so now most of you are good food business owners, right? So you care about how the ingredients you utilize are grown, how the, proteins, whether it's chicken or beef or pork, you care about how they're raised, right? You care about their life and how they're processed after their life. You care about whether or not your seafood is wild and sustainably caught. You care about these things. And a lot of times you launch your business, and this was my case when we launched our business in 2012. We wanted to be purchasing from local businesses. We wanted every ingredient we sourced to meet a very specific criteria. We wanted the artisans that we worked with to also meet that criteria. And as I was in the business longer and longer, I started to learn that you can achieve really high quality. You can achieve really high standards and sometimes serve your community better by bending or expanding on your options in a way that benefits your business and your community. And here's an example of that. I work with a food truck in Maine, and when they were working on their menu and working to source their ingredients, they wanted local proteins, locally raised proteins, and they wanted them all to be raised sustainably and humanely. So that meant for them pasture raised chickens, preferably raised in Maine. And as we were doing the research to find this product for them, we were running into high costs, and that high cost was resulting in very expensive menu items for them and for their potential customers. And they knew that there was no way that they could sell their product for, $16 when competitors were selling them for $4, right? They were already going to be a higher priced product because of the quality menu items they were trying to serve. But this sort of exponentially high cost for chicken that we were finding was simply going to price them out of the market, or require them to price their products so low that they weren't going to be profitable. So as we were having these discussions with farmers and with butchers and with folks who really were involved and ingrained in the industry, we learned something that never would have crossed our minds if we hadn't had conversations and opened up our minds and been curious about what was going on and why things were the way they were. Maine is a cold state, right? It snows there several months out of the year. It's rainy there in the fall. It gets cold. And chickens raised in Maine require indoor structures during the cold weather. They require light and heat during those cold months, and they require food, right? Chicken feed to eat when they can't be outside in the freezing cold weather. Now, Maine is not known for growing a lot of animal feed. And having to ship in the feed, having to build the structures and do the lights, that whole thing adds money to the cost of raising the birds. And what we learned was you can purchase the same quality chicken from Pennsylvania, which is a few states away, for a significantly lower price because Pennsylvania has a number of farms that grow chicken feed. And so there's no expense for shipping in the feed for the birds because it's local and it's abundant. And that cost reduction, just based on the feed costs alone, trickled down to the restaurant that was the buyer and then could be passed on to their customers. So in this case, we really wanted to buy local. We really wanted to have all of our products from Maine, but it would have made that menu item impossible to sell. And even if it did sell, it would have sold to a very small portion of the community. And that was not one of the goals of the business. They wanted to be inclusive. They wanted many people to be able to afford these good food products. And so expanding the parameters, exploring our guidelines, asking questions, being curious, helped us identify a very unique situation and an opportunity to support neighboring farms, right, in neighboring states, but to also support butchers, processors, and other businesses in Maine while serving more customers. It was like a win-win-win situation. So I share this story with you and I make the suggestion to be willing to explore, be willing to ask questions, and be willing to change your purchase parameters and your guidelines in ways that still feel good, that still help you meet your goals, but maybe look a little different than you thought they would when you set out on your business journey. So again, these are just 3 ways that you can think about lowering your costs without affecting the quality and the integrity of your products, and while upholding the standards that you have for your good food business. That's modifying your product, be it by making ingredient swaps, changing the size of your product, or thinking about packaging alternatives. Then we talked about buying in bulk and doing so from distributors, and being able to do that via will call or by partnering with other food businesses in your area. And then last but not least, thinking about your purchasing guidelines in a new way and exploring additional opportunities. If you have questions, if you want to continue this conversation, I encourage you to join me in the Profitable Food Business community. It is free. There is a link in the information below this video to join us there. Bring your questions, bring your comments. Let's continue the conversation so we can change our food industry one profitable good food business at a time. I'll talk to you all again very soon.